Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Drive Time, brought to you by AutoDriveaway. Really cool show today. I am joined by not one, not two, but three special guests. Jen Pemberton from Alsco, Tommy Morgan from Premier Truck, and our very own Scott Nevenhoven. So welcome everybody to the program.
Thanks, Kevin.
So Jen, I'd like to start with you. Just tell us a little bit more about Alsco and what your organization does, and then what your role is.
Okay. So Alsco Uniforms, we're located in our headquarters is in Salt Lake City, Utah. And we are a linen and uniform industrial textile uniform rental company. We have been in business. So Alsco is a fifth generation family owned company founded in 1889. And today we operate in 200 plus locations with over 16,000 employees in 12 different countries. My time with Alsco, I've been with Alsco for about a year and a half. And in my role, I'm the senior manager of fleet and routing. And with that, I oversee the fleet operations in the US and Canada, as well as our routing operations. So within our fleet, we operate roughly 3,700 vehicles total between US and Canada, and we're running about 1,500 routes.
Holy cow! So you have a lot going on, a lot on your plate. Thank you for that great intro, Tommy. I'll throw it to you. Tell me a little bit about Premier and what you do.
So my name's Tommy Morgan. Started selling trucks at Warner Truck Center here in Salt Lake City, Utah, back in February of 2016. So I think I'm coming up on a 10-year next year. We were purchased by Premier Truck Group in July of 2019 and became part of the Premier Truck Group organization. Premier's been great to work for. We've got a bigger footprint now, which enables us to serve customers a lot cleaner and smoother across the country. We're basically coast to coast now. And Premier is also part of the Penske organization. So we've got a lot of good intermittent partnerships between Penske and Premier. All in all, it's been a good transition. It was a little scary to go from a mom and pop shop to a big corporate run company, but Premier's been a great place to work. So I'm happy about it.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Scott. Let's throw it to you. You're in our Elkhart location. Tell us a little bit about you and your team there.
Sure. So I started with AutoDriveaway in 2006. So I am coming up on my 19th year. I would say from 06 to about 2015, 2016, I was the operations manager. And then transitioned into sales and business development from there. Being here as long as I have, I've pretty much worn every hat you could think of within this type of business, which helps. I think it helps our quality of service from beginning to the end of picking up and delivering vehicles.
So really cool. We kind of have the whole ecosystem here, if you will. So Jen, how did you get into fleet? Like what led you to fleet as a career?
That's a great question because it's not, it's not like every girl's dream growing up that, someday I can manage a fleet of trucks or anything like that. I started working with different trucking companies to obtain oversized and heavy haul permits for interstate loads going from one state to another. So I was working with a lot of trucking companies. That's how I got into fleet. And this, we're talking, this is 17, 18 years ago. So
Sure.
it's been a long
So
time.
you've seen a lot, and those experiences probably served you well. So Tommy, I know you said you've been kind of doing this for a while, previously at a mom and pop and now with a large organization. What attracted you to trucking and what do you really kind of enjoy about it?
Well, to be honest, I didn't know the first thing about it when I started. Couldn't even change my own oil at that point. Never spec'd a truck, but I I had a job working for a resident engineer consulting firm that does overflow projects for UDOT, and my brother was down here selling trucks, and he was killing it. You know, he was selling 4,000 plus trucks a year, had some massive accounts, and I just kept begging him. You know, anytime you guys have an opening, let me know. You know, I'll jump ship as soon as I can. 'Cause I've always enjoyed the sales process, and I've been in sales pretty well my whole life. And once I got into the industry and found how great the people are to work with and how down to earth everybody is, um, it just seems like a perfect fit for me.
Sure. No, absolutely. So Scott, as we talked about, I used the word ecosystem, earlier. Tell me a little bit about how the three organizations, Auto Driveaway and Premier Trucking and Alsco, how they work together, right? Because you're kind of the man in the middle, if you will, or part of the process. So how do we all work together, I guess?
Yeah, so essentially, it's Tommy and Jen will let me know when the vehicles are ready to be picked up from the production line. From there, we will pick those vehicles up and we will hold them until they get allocated to the end user. And that along the way, everything is about communication. We want to make sure that we have all the correct pickup and delivery location, contact numbers. Heaven forbid that a vehicle gets delivered to California that was supposed to go to New York. So that attention to detail is very important. Also escalations. You know, if we pick up a vehicle, we're going to do a condition report. If we see any problems, we want to address those right away. So we're not putting out. We don't want to put out a bad product into the market. We don't want to make Jen and Tommy look bad. We don't want AutoDriveaway to look bad.
Yeah, so it sounds like, yeah, you're each have a different role, right? So Jen is in need of new vehicles. She's ordering them from Tommy, and then Scott Auto Drive Away is helping, transport, move, and or store some of those vehicles. So everybody's kind of dependent on the other, which is fantastic. So what are those challenges that you guys face? Jen, maybe we'll start with you. Like, what are in today's environment, whether it be economic or otherwise, what are the biggest challenges? And I think you told us, you have a fleet of 3,700 vehicles. I mean, that's daunting. But what are the biggest challenges that you face on a regular basis?
One challenge that seems pretty consistent is kind of going back to what you were saying about the fleet size, is that from my perspective, I like to keep things as consistent as possible. It's almost predicting, or it's understanding each of my markets so that when it comes time to plan for truck orders, I can be much better at predicting who's going to get what, because there are some branches that want, shelves on one side, shelves on both sides, nets, lift gate, no lift gate. There's all kinds of different options that we can do with these trucks. So as much as I try to push for consistency, I also have to understand that at the local level, within our branches, there's different ways how we use these trucks. It's not cookie cutter. It's not one size fits all. So that's definitely one of the bigger challenges I have.
Yeah, sure. So being able to pivot and be flexible, while at the same time trying to be as efficient and consistent as possible is probably. So Tommy, as a dealer, right, you kind of sit in between, your customer Jen, but then, your manufacturing partner and Freightliner. So what kind of challenges do you guys face?
From a sales perspective, I think some of the more challenging things would be just breaking into fleet accounts. Most fleets, especially large scale fleets, already have well established relationships with OEMs and dealer partners. So just getting through the gatekeeper and being able to, you know, earn business can be challenging at times. But it's not impossible, obviously. And as long as you're putting the customer first, then typically, you always come out on the winning end. From an economic standpoint, it's tough because it's a moving target, right? Trucking is highly reliant on a good, strong economy, and it's hard to make friends with all your client base and watch them lose money month over month in times like this. Recent year and a half or so, it's been pretty brutal on the over the road market.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting, as we've all learned over the last, number of years, is there's so many external forces that are out of your control, whether it be the economy, supply chain, interest rates, prices, et cetera. So you guys have to kind of operate sometimes with things that you cannot control. So Scott, tell me how this three-way relationship, what makes it successful? What are the keys to making it successful from your perspective, as, like I said, kind of in between both Jen and Tommy? You touched a little bit before about communication, but maybe tell me a little bit more about how you make it all work so that both Tommy and Jen are happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, I want to say it's a lot of trust on both Tommy and Jen's part, right? So they've got multi millions of dollars worth of assets that we're going to be in possession of, and I want both parties to feel like when they send me an email or they have questions, that their needs are going to be taken care of with a sense of urgency. Ultimately, when it's time for a truck to go to the end user, we want to get it there as safely and as quickly as possible, because somebody is waiting on that truck, and that person cannot go to work until they have their vehicle to do so.
Sure. So Tommy and Jen, I'll throw it back to you in terms of, what have you found from Scott and his team that have, hopefully allowed you guys to be successful, or at least maybe eliminated some of those concerns by knowing that AutoDriveaway and Scott's team have your back relative to what you need them to do. So Jen, maybe I'll start with you.
So for a long time have had some kind of interaction or experience with AutoDriveaway. So when I first started at Alsco and working with Tommy had asked me, hey Jen, is it okay if we just use AutoDriveaway for all of your transport? And based on my previous experience of working with AutoDriveaway, it was an immediate yes, that sounds fantastic. And so AutoDriveaway really does transport the majority of all of our trucks that are ordered every year. And in my time working with Tommy and Scott, it's been a fantastic experience. When Scott talks about that trust factor, I do feel that. I do have trust within AutoDriveaway to solidify that trust. Somewhat recently, I had ordered some trucks and they were delivered by that delivering dealer's own transport company that they always use. And that experience, the trucks were delivered to the wrong location. They were delivered during times when they were not supposed to be delivered. And it was an experience that just reiterated why I appreciate the relationship with AutoDriveaway so much. So, and when Scott talks about, being responsive to the customer, and I see this out of Tommy too, but Tommy or I can email Scott and I swear there's a response within 5 or 10 minutes. So, it's just really great to know that at least on that end, on the end of where trucks are being delivered, it's kind of one of those things I really don't have to worry about it because there's rarely ever an issue.
Well, that's great to hear. Tommy, I hope you feel the same way. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just piggybacking off what Jen, finished with, it's a part of the, I guess, the whole process that can be nerve wracking, and from a coordination standpoint can be frustrating. But AutoDriveaway and the way that we've worked out our system, I guess, between the three of us, it's turnkey, and in the strategic location of AutoDriveaway storage lots, in close proximity to where these trucks are being built and assembled, and then their close communication with the body upfitters as well. In this case, primarily Morgan Olson. But they pick them up, they store them for us, and when the truck is assigned to a branch, they put a butt in the seat and deliver it to the branch. And it makes the whole system really clean and smooth, and it's a whole leg of the transaction process that I don't have to worry about. AutoDriveaway consistently delivers. They have, a real strong network of reliable drivers, and from a pricing standpoint, they've always been, extremely competitive. So it's a no-brainer. Working with AutoDriveaway it's been great. And from a logistics standpoint, it saves the end user, Alsco or any of the fleets that we sell to, a lot of money to be able to store these trucks without having to pay storage fees and not have to deliver to one central location and then turn around and deliver, around the country after that. So there's a good cost savings involved too.
No, that's great. That's great to hear. So as we kind of move towards the end here, you guys have both, really all three of you have been in this space, for a while. Any, I guess, either best practices that you'd like to share, or tips to somebody, Jen, other fleet managers in the industry, or Tommy, other dealers, any best practices or things you've learned over your time doing this that you think people would find helpful?
For me, I think as it relates to what we're talking about, I have found that having that partnership with AutoDriveaway, for example, to coordinate transport on, I mean, at this point, it's pretty much all of our trucks, um, has been extremely beneficial, because I think a lot of times what happens is, as we're ordering trucks, the transport side is usually not always left up to the fleet manager. A lot of times it's coordinated by, the body manufacturer, or sometimes the dealership. And so I think that as a fleet manager, being involved in that process as well, and um, having that piece in understanding, who's delivering your trucks, and even coordinating who should be, right? It's not just the body manufacturer coordinating it or the dealership coordinating it, but it should be a partnership all around, which is what we have, working with Tommy and with Scott with AutoDriveaway. Again, I would say my recommendation would be to be involved in that and have a consistency around all of your vehicle purchases with one transport company.
Yeah, no, great advice. Tommy, anything from your perspective that you've learned that you'd share?
Yeah, I think networking's key. Having an answer for just about anything you can be asked, or knowing exactly who to go to get the right answer, or a quick answer when something pops up, and then building those relationships with key individuals like Scott, within the industry, to help get things done and get them done efficiently. And then it sounds cliche, but always putting the customer first and aligning your goals with the customer's business goals, and doing really outside the box, anything outside the box you can to help that business thrive, ultimately is going to win over the customer, and also, earn you a referral business. So, you know, I guess just stepping up and making sure that they're taken care of and you're doing everything you can.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice and applicable across, any industry really. Scott, anything you'd like to add as we wrap this up of, kind of what you've learned, or some best practices that from your perspective?
Sure. I'll also kind of piggyback off of what Jen was just talking about too, about, it feels more like a partnership, in a lot of cases, transport companies, especially driveway companies in particular, with dealing with larger companies, um, you know, I don't feel like we're treated like just another vendor. And in some cases, we do get treated that way. And it makes it tough, because we don't have an open dialogue. And so I know that I can call Jen and Tommy, and we can have an open, honest discussion about issues or whatever. And, if we need to take some corrective actions on our end, I know that we're going to hear about it, and it gives us an opportunity to make things better.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I mean, I think just hearing all of you, it's about communication and problem solving, but responsiveness and transparency. So I think it's great to hear that kind of resonate. So I just want to thank all of you for joining me. This was really, really special and informative, and just appreciate, Jen and Tommy, really appreciate your partnership, and Scott, appreciate everything you do every day for us. So again, just thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed it like I did.